Thanks for dropping by. Trying to catch gaps in these ridiculously heavy blustery showers we're having because the noise in here is deafening, and obviously when I'm doing this sort of thing I'm quite a distance from the camera and the camera's still got to pick up me above the noise of the rain, so we might have an interruption. I think there's a gap coming, might even get a bit of sunshine, who knows. Right, first things first, yesterday's Wessex Orchid Society Christmas do went off great. Hotel organised the tables absolutely brilliantly. Everybody had their name tags where they got to sit. No objections. Apparently they were overruled. But yeah, that all worked out great. Nice meal, nice company as usual. And quite honestly, there were some very nice orchids on display. Now at Wessex they don't have that as a competitive table. It's just a display. There were some very nice plants there, and I've got a new one, raffle prize. Now Milan, who you will know occasionally leaves comments on the videos, he does watch, and I want scissors, but he posts quite frequently on the Facebook group, so you'd know him from there, and comments a lot. So he brought in some lovely plants to look at, including one that I've completely forgotten the name of, that even in the dull light, bearing in mind there were virtually no windows in the room, so we only had the lights on, which is not, as we know, strong light. One of his orchids had a superb fragrance, and it was wafting away from the table some distance, absolutely gorgeous. Not big blooms, but he also I think he's taken my idea and downsizing prior to his move. He bought in quite a few for the raffle, one of which I had, and I'm not quite sure. I know it's bare rooted, and I've forgotten what the flipping name is. It's written on here somewhere. It's an epidendrum. I can't read that. I think it's Lanipes or something like that. LA, either M or N. There's an I in there because there's a dot, and then PES on the end. Bare rooted pieces, which I'll have to pot up obviously, and this is doing a typical epidendrum thing. And if you look at that particular plant, that is a plant in its own right. That's okay. Make a mess now, but this one's doing a lot of what epidendrums do, and they start their growth part way up the cane, so they're bordering on keikis really, because they're not from the actual base. The base is down here, so it's grown up and then grown out from there. Obviously deciduous, well I hope it is, since there's a lot of bare canes on here, but we've got new growths on here, and Milan showed me a picture of the blooms on this, and as epidendrums grow, it's unusual, and it's a species, so I think we might give that a go. And I mean, if that's as long as the canes get, I'm happy with that, because I'll pick it up and show you. This is what some epidendrums, oh that means I've got to bend down. This is what some epidendrums can do, and I probably can't even get this in camera. Right, the plant is now touching the roof, and the pot is here. That's what some of them can do, and I can't accommodate plants like this. This has now got to live on the floor. It can't go anywhere else, and of course I keep kicking it. I try to keep it out of the way, but they can grow to silly heights, so that's on the list to go anyway. That's not going to be around too much longer. I suspect that might go back where it came from, on the raffle table. Because it's unknown. I haven't got a clue what it is. I was hoping to get it to flower before it went. The latest growth's still pushing out leaves at the moment, despite being, I suspect that's 1.3 metres now, that plant. I could work it out because it's about 20 centimetres taller than my shelving, whatever height they were. Anyway, so we've got a new plant. That will need potting up. And on the downsizing, we got two lots of downsizing. We got plants, which I've discussed, and I had a look back My channel is coming up to its 4-year anniversary. My first ever video was in January 2016. So I've been doing videos nearly 4 years now. They've probably changed along the way. I mean, certainly for a very long time I was doing a Danny. All you ever saw was hands and possibly some feet. You didn't see the ugly mug. But when I started doing the Sunday morning chats, obviously you have to go with the flow to a degree if you want your channel to keep going and grow. And they were popular, so why not? You know, there's no skin off my nose. I do have to make sure I'm relatively smart, or at least clean, and not all scruffy and all that sort of stuff. But nonetheless, I quite enjoy doing them. So plants, I had a look back through some old videos because I've had some spare time on the grounds that I haven't been able to do much. I mean, my back was bad again yesterday, and today it's okay again. I say okay, manageable. But there was a time, obviously before I started doing videos, where this grow room was still part conservatory, and I had a sofa here and a table. Used to sit out here and have my coffee or a glass of wine in the evening when the weather was suitable. And this morning, talking of weather, I noticed I hadn't I put bubble wrap and taped it over the extractor fan and forgot to do the inlet fan. And I moved a plant this morning and put it down on that low shelf, and I could feel the blast of cold air coming in that opening. So I need to get that blocked up. Trouble is, that is down at ground floor level and bending in round the shelves. I can't move all the shelves out of the way. We'll see. It needs doing though somehow. Yeah, so I've been doing, and I had a look back at some of the older videos, and there's a method of actually showing my videos in certain sort orders. One is oldest first, one is newest first, which is the default. The other one is most popular. One of my old videos, and I mean an old one, has had over 21,000 views. Well, it certainly didn't get anything like that when I put that video up, you know, because I normally keep my eye on the views for the first few days, because then they normally tail off. That one just keeps getting more and more views on it. And I had a look at the most popular ones and came down. And the most popular ones are ones with either a specific plant or specific genera in the title. Things like looking after my dendrobiums. I mean, strangely enough, I've only got one cymbidium, which is in bloom at the moment, and looking brilliant, and it spends half of the year outside the garden, so it never gets looked at out there. And I've only ever repotted it once, and that's in the top 10 of my videos. Cymbidium repot. Why? Because it's got the word cymbidium and repot in it. So when somebody comes in on YouTube thinking I ought to repot my cymbidium, let's see if there's any YouTube videos, that I've got the two key words in the title. So I ought to pay more attention to my titles. But some of them are not. Some of the videos are general, like this one. This is a Sunday morning chat. It hasn't even got the word orchid in it. People that follow the channel know what it is, but new people doing a search aren't going to find it. So I ought to think a bit more about my titles. As far as the older videos were concerned, just listening to me and looking at what I was showing, I think I was at my happiest when I had about 150 orchids. Now, with my orchids that have been binned, and there still might be a few more in that list that I haven't managed to get there yet, and the ones to go that are reasonable plants, that it totaled about 70 orchids. Sounds horrendous amount, but given that the start point was around 240, that takes me down to about 170. I need a few more gone. I need to be harsh. I need to get back to that happy spell where looking after them is nothing like a chore. It's just pure enjoyment, and looking forward to the ones that I've got left coming into bloom because they've got something going for them, not just ones I bought. And I left a comment on Todd's today because he's having a bit of a clear out. I hope I haven't started a trend, but you know, when you're collecting orchids and starting to build a collection, you see a plant and think, oh, that's absolutely stunning, that's my favourite orchid. Well, then more come in that become your favourite orchids, and when you start looking back, you sort of think, well, that isn't my favourite anymore. It's sort of in amongst the new stuff, more run-of-the-mill. Now, that's the area I need to work on. I need to go through my pictures first and foremost and sort out, right, that's got to stay, those blooms are stunning, let's get those done. Then go back to the plant, think how well's the plant doing? Yeah, that still looks a good plant. And then you find out those blooms might be stunning, but they only last a couple of weeks. You only get them once a year. Does that justify its existence? I've still got work to do. And the next thing that's going to get downsized is the effort in here to put a video up each day. Because, again, listening to Danny, one of Danny's new videos, she does a lot. It's her living, don't forget. It's how she earns her money. So it's important that she makes her YouTube channel work as best as she can. And she uses her analytics a lot, whereas I don't. I'm lazy. And she's worked out that since she put up less videos, she's not getting any less views. She just gets more views per video. I mean, when you've got well over 100,000 subscribers, which are potential viewers, you've got room to spare, I suppose you could say. But anyway, I've had a think about this, and one of my most popular videos is this one, Sunday Morning Chat. Well, let's have a day off on Monday then. So, day one. And then another weekday. Might be Thursday, might be Friday. Yeah? But I'm going to try and take at least 2 days off, which will give me more time to think about something more specific, more relevant. And don't forget, you can always play a part there. I'm always open to suggestions. Yeah? And I don't mind doing a spotlight video, as they're called. There's only so many types of videos. You've got new orchids and unboxings, new blooms, repotting and mounting, pretty blooms, I'll call them, you know, everything in bloom type video, like I do once a month, some do them once a month as well, you know, and spotlights. And I very rarely do a spotlight. So, you know, actually take a plant, have a good look at it, have a chat about its care, more specifically for that one, rather than, say, the genera, or the genus. And some of those seem quite popular. So make your suggestions. I can't promise every single one, and you know, I do what I can, but I'm going to cut down the sheer number. One a day, and sometimes two, and then normally a little short. What I call light bulb moments, where I'm sort of perhaps doing something entirely different, and I think of something, actually I could film that now, and I just go out and do it and put it up on YouTube. So cutting down on the volume is good, cutting down on the number of orchids is good, so that as we come into the growing season next year, I'm going to feel more comfortable about what I've got and how I look after it, and I'm going to try and get rid of the obscure ones, the ones that I really don't know how to look after. And if they do well, it's more luck than judgment, pot luck. Some orchids I've got in here, there's hardly any information on. And some others have got such conflicting information because the information's given from different parts of the world. You know, looking after something in Florida is not the same as in Canada. And in the EU, you've got north and south. You've got people growing in Africa, people growing in the Far East, all these different environments. People who've got very humid atmospheres that never have to worry about humidity. Others that have got air that's so dry it's bordering on deserts. So, you know, we've got all that to consider. So that's that lot. Makes a change. Coffee's still hot. Got a couple of things to show you that I found when I was watering. Is this going to come down? Just about. Now this is on the list to go. This is Dinema polybulbon. and I got reminded how pretty the blooms are, because somebody's posted a picture of theirs that has just come into bloom on the Facebook group. And last time I watered this, I had a better look at it. And I thought we got bud, 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 bud. I got buds all over this. Just hadn't noticed. This is one of those, because I can't water this without getting the plant wet, I don't care that I get the plant wet. So this just gets water thrown over it and put to drain. I can do that with hardly any looking at it. Do it with my eyes shut. But I've got quite a lot of buds coming on this. Now this is on the list to go, yeah? But when it can go, we're looking at least March, so this is going to bloom before it goes, so everybody can have a look at what it looks like when it comes into bloom. I mean, I've got pictures of the blooms obviously, but there's no substitute for seeing the blooms on the plant, quite honestly. So that's good news. I can't remember when that last bloomed. It's in my notes. Can't even be bothered to look it up. I sort of look at things like this. It'll bloom when it's good and ready, but I know it does. That's the good bit. So we got that one to come. Get up there. She messed me about and fall. And a couple of people requested a dendrobium to be included in the project plants. One of which is Hancockii, endearingly known as the big bush on the floor. No, sorry, I can't film it. I can never get the whole plant on camera. It's over 1 metre tall and it spreads, so I can't do that one. But this one was asked for, and since I cut the long canes off, and I've now had it long enough to know what it's probably going to do, I can include it. I've forgotten what it is. It is Chrysium, Dendrobium Chrysium. Now this had canes, again, over 1 metre long. This in fact was the reason the big box orchids were called the big box. It was this one that was taking up the whole box. Well, eventually I cut these on the grounds I thought they're too old to bloom now. Blooming cycle on this is it blooms on the previous growths, which is this lot. And this is behaving now how it should, because these older growths are dropping their leaves and becoming deciduous. This one could bloom now. So by starting to film it in January when it's effectively resting, it's not a true serious winter rester, it's a drier in winter and cooler. So as it's behaving now, as I would expect this dendrobium to do, I think we may well get some blooms on these canes. These canes haven't been cut. They're not as long as they should be, because at the time these were growing, this is last year's growth, so you know, quite a long time ago, it didn't have a good root system. But during that year it developed the root system, but it stunted the canes. They just couldn't get enough moisture and food into them. So they're shorter. If you look, they're considerably shorter than this year's growths, which in some cases are still growing. But in theory this should behave now, and as the canes age they should keel over this way and the new canes straight up, bolt upright, and then they will follow suit. So I think we may get some blooms on that. So this may be an interesting one to follow, as it's a biggie. It's a bit of a beast this, but you know, I think in amongst my plants my mind says I need some specimen plants. I need some full-size plants, and this is one of them. Now when it blooms, if the blooms last 10 days and fall off, you know what list it will go on. But for the moment I don't know that. I could look it up, but I'd rather wait and see what it does for me. Because often you look something up and it says, oh, the blooms last 2 to 3 weeks, and they last 5 weeks when I've got it. And others say blooms should last 4 or 5 weeks and they only last 10 days. So it's what it does for you that's important, not what it says in a 50-year-old blinking book that may have been written by somebody growing in a totally different part of the world based on their own experience. We have Tiny Twinkle is just starting to open its blooms. Now this has got a couple of spikes blasted on it for some reason. I've got enough blooms on here not to worry why. Now I won't be able to focus on this, I don't expect, it's too small. But they're just starting to open. So twinkles are small oncidiums, tiny twinkle is a miniature small oncidium. This is as big as it grows. You know, the whole plant is the size of my hand. Consequently the blooms are tiny, but the fragrance is just as strong as its bigger brothers and sisters. So that one's just starting to open now. I can't catch any fragrance yet, but these blooms started to crack the buds yesterday basically, so they've just started to open. So we got that one, and there was something else I wanted to look at, and I can't get at it now because I've put it back, unfortunately. But I've changed my watering for my mounts and things like this. Oh, yay! So I just spotted some more twinkle blooms. One of the cinnamon ones, the smaller pieces, is just starting to open, only just. So we've got a couple of, I mean that's just a small piece that was mounted. But there's quite a lot of my mounts look like this. They're heavy on the moss because they were oncidium types. Now, I don't want them drying as fast as I do some of the other ones. So these, at the moment, are getting watered every 4th day. Yeah? But in between, every 2nd day, a lot of the others get done. And I've picked out a few that are not doing so well on that 2-day cycle. So they're going back to a 1-day cycle. Despite it being winter, they are just, it's mainly the cloud forest ones, really, that I've noticed recently are just not doing so well. So I left them down, I've just watered them. Things like this. This is a Cuthbertsonii cross, cloud forest dweller. Should not dry out and heavy on the moisture in the air and everything. It's dropping quite a few leaves recently. It's not looking anywhere near as good as it was. It is pushing up quite a few new growths, so it's growing. And the older canes are starting to lose some leaves, and so this is now going to go back to getting watered every day. There's only half a dozen of them. You know, it's a 2-minute job. So do it, Roger, and talk about it. Another thing I noticed, I'd still like an answer on this. The only Arengus I've got left is the one I bought this year. Now it's just starting a new leaf, its first one since I got it. But what is this all about? I've got several plants looking like this. What is it? This is pitting. I mean, if I turn the plant round, you can see it on the back of the leaves too. What is causing that? Definitive answer. You can see it's cell damage. It's the surface of the leaves have indented quite badly. I don't know what it is. It's not bugs. I mean, these leaves were good when I got this plant. Now they're not. What's taking them down? What is doing that? Doesn't seem to have spread. For the last month or so, this plant has just been static. It's growing a new leaf now, so it's coming back into vegetative growth. I don't know how quick it's going to grow. It's a new one. But what is doing that? Several plants have got that on them, and I just don't know what it is. But it isn't bugs. So what else could it be? You know, you wonder, don't you? So, yeah. But at least that's started to grow again. This is another one. This was a freebie. This is Medio Calcar something. Oh, it doesn't say. This is a forest dweller. You know, that's how it grows. And it's a mat forming orchid. So it just grows up against things. Quite a miniature, but it spreads quite quickly once it gets going. And I keep looking at this, at things like that. Is that a bud? I think it's too small to bloom. I think it's just because they appear in several places. These are new growths pushing out from various places, basically. They're not buds, I don't think. But that's on the list to go. That's a nice healthy plant, but you'd have to work with it. It's a cloud forest dweller. It never gets dry. It's not one of these that needs a wet dry cycle. That's the last thing it needs. It needs good humidity, doesn't need bright light, It needs to stay moist without staying soggy. That clever little thing that's not so easy to do. Ugh. Bane of my life, those type of orchids, really. You never know whether they're too wet. And I'm going to show this. This is my miserable attempt at a Dendrobium Victoria Regina. It has grown a new cane this year. Nothing's going to happen with this old cane. That was there when I got it. This little growth here died and came off in the hand, Your Honour. But it has grown a new growth. So it's growing. But that's years away from getting to blooming size. Years and years. So I'm still looking for a big one. I'm still looking for a good size one of those at any price. That's one I've got to have, and I want to get a decent blooming size one. Again, they're not the easiest to look after. That's a cold grower, cool to cold, not warm. It's not even really at the bottom end of intermediate. It's a cool grower. So they're not so easy to accommodate when you get up to flipping 30 degrees in the summer in this place. Yes. So there's a few plants. There's something niggling in the back of my mind I wanted to show you. I can't remember what the hell it was. Oh, I did find one Cattleya, the one a while ago, not the one recently, the first time I tried cutting the rhizomes to see if it would shoot out. It's currently got 4 growths, all with sheaths with buds in. So boy did that one work. Up till then it had 2 leads, so it's pushed out another 2 in addition, so it's now got 4 leads, and all 4 of the latest growths have got sheaths with buds. So that's looking good. My Nellie Isla's about to open. My Tolumnia that we looked at just as the buds were opening is now open. I doubt I'll be able to hold this still enough, but at least the camera's still. This is Golden Sunray Sunrise. It's a beauty. It's an absolute beauty. Now, when I first showed this, I said this is a real colour changer because you've got the deep red and it's yellow when it opens with very faint veining around the edge of the bottom section. And that veining gets heavier and heavier and turns a bright orange, which you can see it's now starting to do. And it turns into, after no more than 4 or 5 days, something pretty special. And a second spike on that one as well. So that's coming on well, that one. And those are gorgeous blooms. I do like my yellows, oranges and reds. Red's a bit thin on the ground in this place, I must admit. I've only got one true red Cattleya, which I can't get at, but that's got a sheath with buds at the bottom, so we will get red down the line. I'm always saying down the line, aren't I? How about now? Where did I put that Cattleya? There it is. I knew I'd put it somewhere where I could get at it. Now this is a species Cattleya. And I didn't know what to expect, and I still don't, and I don't want to. What I want is for those 2 buds to open and be a complete surprise. Now this is Genmanii. This bud doesn't look quite right, but this one does. This is its first blooming. We shall see. I don't know how much bigger these buds are going to get, but they're already quite large. So the blooms are obviously going to be quite large, aren't they? These, what we're looking at now, are the sepals. The petals and the lip are in there, tucked away, waiting to come out. And I haven't got a clue how long they're going to be before they do open. But that's 2 good-sized blooms on that. And several people have said that they wouldn't have expected it to bloom at that size. But I don't think this has been grown on from a seedling. I don't know though. If you look at the earliest bulb down here, it's quite tiny. So it could have had the tiniest bulbs from when it was a seedling removed, leaving what's left. On reflection, I was going to say it's a division. I don't think it is. I think this has come on from a seedling. Now, being a species, it probably only puts up 1 bulb a year. several out of the flask as a seedling. It would probably have a set of 3, maybe 4 little tiny bulbs, and then it starts growing properly. And its first bulb is not normally very big. But from that point on, you tend to get 1 a year. So we're still looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years, probably, to get to blooming size. Whereas you get something like a Tulumnia can bloom at 2 years old. Masdevallias can bloom younger. Yeah, not younger than 2 years, but younger than 6, that's for sure. So some types of orchids you buy as seedlings, don't hold your breath, because they take a long time to mature. If you don't mind that, and you don't mind waiting and getting cheaper plants, fine. The way I am at the moment, I'm not prepared to do that, so I don't buy seedlings. I do get given some. This one, can I get up there? Stand on a box. This is my Brassivola Little Stars. This one's on the list to go because I think the expression is it doesn't float my boat. But we've got some good spikes coming. One here, one here. There's more than that. I think there's 3, maybe 4. Oh, there's another one down here. There's 3 or 4 spots. Oh, there's another little one just starting. And another one tucked in there. So 1, 2, 3. Where did that other one go? Now stop hiding. Stand up and be counted. 4. I can see 5 definites anyway, so we've got 5. And each spike should have at least 2 blooms on. If it was grown really well, a spike on one of these would probably have 4, maybe even 5. But this had a rough start in life, took a while to get going and form a root system, which is now done. I mean, that is a pretty good root system there. And it grows in many directions. It's gone off backwards up the mount, forwards out here, out there and backwards up there. So it's effectively heading off in 4 directions at the moment. So, but that one's to go. So, I mean, somebody's going to get a pretty good plant there. It's not a bad plant at all. It's a high light lover, so if you haven't got good light, you probably won't get it to bloom. But providing you can give it the light, its care is a doddle. Just water it and feed it now and again when it's growing, and not quite so much when it's not. Feed and water well when in active growth. Now, a lot of people have interpreted that as this stuff, the green stuff. Yet don't forget, spikes are active growth. So are new root systems. It's not just the green stuff. Yeah? So there are times when a plant is doing nothing. There's no root growth. The roots you've got are static. They've stopped growing. There's no new ones. No new growth's pushing out, and it's not trying to bloom. It's static. That's the time you cut back. At that point, it needs virtually no food and not so much water. That's the time you'll get the soggy roots if you put too much water in there, when it's not doing anything. And that's just logic, isn't it? That just makes sense. A lot of orchids come from a wet season and a dry season. It's not bone dry, it's just drier, really. They still get a bit of rain and there's morning dew and mist and fog now and again. So they're not bone dry, but they're not getting that daily rain like they do in their growing season. So we need to mimic that a bit better and do our bit. I still haven't got to the one that was niggling me. There was something I just spotted out of the corner of my eye, which is now failing me miserably. There's a cat flap going. That's either one in or one out, one of the two. You can never tell. Makes the same noise both ways. Right. Oh, that's Elvis just come in. Poor old Elvis is starting to show his age now. He's starting to walk a bit slower. It seems quite an effort for him to come down the stairs now. He does it very cautiously rather than just charging down like a Looney Tune. But yeah, well, they are heading towards 15 now. Not young cats. The other one still flies around like an idiot, as though he's a kitten. But yeah, Elvis is slowing up a bit now, which is a bit sad, of thinking of things to come. But that's how it is if you have pets. Right, I'm going to leave it at that, and ideas for some spotlight videos, ideas for the next set of project plants. The next set of project plants are not necessarily going to be a totally different set in each of the parts, 1, 2, 3 and 4. And I might even squash them up and only have 3 parts next year. I haven't made my mind up yet, that's still thinking stage at the moment, and it's going to be January before I even think about doing that, so I've got plenty of time. But yeah, spotlight video choices, choices of plants as project plants to, you know, do 4 updates throughout the year again next year. And any requests for plants that were in this set of project updates that you would like kept and see another year's worth. I might not agree with your suggestions and override, but no harm in trying, is there? And yeah, we'll see how the reduced number of videos goes. It is going to give me more time to think about the video content. I don't do a lot of editing on my videos, so it's not like I need more time to edit my videos, because a lot of them are just like this. Camera sits up there and I waffle. What could I edit now? What could I edit onto this video, apart from perhaps a couple of plant names along the bottom? 10 seconds, as long as it takes me to type the plant name. Some of them I have to go and look up to see how to spell, but it's the one thing with a video editor, it doesn't spell check. You have to do it manually. But apart from that, I don't do a lot of editing, so it's not like it's going to give me more time to edit my videos. I don't need that time. And the processing and the posting depends on the length of the video, and I don't need to be there. I walk away from those 2 steps. So that doesn't give me any more time, if you see what I mean. But it gives me days off, yeah? And it takes away what sometimes it feels a little bit pressurized to think of, what the hell am I going to film today? I need to do one today. Well, no I don't, do I? Really? Just doing a video for the sake of it? If we can get round that and get to more specific and, you know, that sort of stuff, I think it might be a bit better, so I'm going to give it a go. And still got a lukewarm coffee. No, I haven't, it's cold. Right, that'll do for today, that's enough waffling. And again, thanks for your support with the channel. As I say, I'm coming up to 4 years now. I wouldn't be here where I am on this channel if you didn't watch and support the channel. Nobody watched my channel, I'd have probably packed it in by now. But with the support and the interaction in the comments and stuff like that, I like it. So I'm not going anywhere. Just the number of times might come down a bit. And we'll see where we go from there. So I'm still downsizing plants, still got work to do. Downsize number of videos, so that when we get into this next growing season, what I've got, I look forward to looking after. And I'd like that to be for every single plant that's left. That's going to be quite a task. Who knows, we might even get down to less than 150. But that's my immediate target. And we may carry on, you know. We're not going to the extent where I can get my sofa back out here. We're not going that far, but we'll see where we go. And thanks for dropping by. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed, you can if you choose to. Nowadays, the way YouTube works, the number of subscribers is not such a big deal as it used to be. But if you're subscribed and you click the ding-a-ling thing, then when I do post a video, you'll get told. You'll get an email. I think that's the way it works, you know. So it's, I got to tell you this morning. I saw a Brad video, and it was live. I wasn't watching it live. I was watching it after the fact. But it was quite comical because prior to starting that video, he'd done a live video and spent 10 minutes talking to himself because he had it set to private instead of public. And I laughed out loud because I've done it. And, you know, he realised that something was wrong when there was nothing going on up the side. He thought, well, there's nobody here. I'm talking to myself. What's going on? And I've done that, so it tickled me a lot because it's a very easy slip, and I think the default now on YouTube is set to private, so you've got to remember to override that and set it to live before you press the go button, so to speak. But yeah, I had sympathies, you know, 'cause it often takes a bit of a while to set up ready to go and think about what you're going to do. And yeah, he spent 10 minutes talking to himself. But realised what was wrong, went back in and started again. So worked eventually. And I've got no plans on live videos because of the time of day I would need to do them. I'd have to do them with the lights on. Here's a question for you. Is that a big deal? And quite honestly, a live broadcast is not much different to what I'm doing now. I'm in it, the camera's fixed. The difference is I can interact as it goes along. So if somebody says, can I have a look at so-and-so, I can just go and get it and do it there and then. So it's far more responsive when you're doing it live. But it would have to be done with the lights on because of the time of day I need to do that. As I said, 9/10 of my viewers are in the States. Yeah? And for them to be able to watch it, they need to be up, not in bed. So as I'm getting into my evening time, the States is coming into its morning time, so it offers more chance for people to join in. So maybe I'll have a think about that. Certainly not before Christmas, I've got too much to do. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.